Hello, beautiful people. Today is 8th of August. My name is Sahil and welcome to Newspaper Analysis. Friends, today we will directly be starting with the newspaper overview and newspaper analysis. And today we have to skip the GS folder and question section due to some unforeseeable emergency. I hope you will cooperate it. Now, taking up the overview. Guys, here we can see two news items. Two tragic events occurred in Kerala, and in the context of disaster management, we will see certain issues of NDRF, NDMA, etc. Then, guys, rising number of COVID cases, not important. Will Yogi visit the mosque? Not important. Now, here the marine issue has been mentioned. Supreme Court says that we will only be closing matter after receiving the hefty compensation. Guys, already since 2012, how this matter has been unfolded, we discussed. And moreover, now the matter has been closed and not indirectly important for our UPSC exam. Then, guys, here the account of certain aspirants who made success in UPSC exam has been given. Guys, moving forward, no important news with respect to exam. Then here the electric vehicle policy of Delhi government has been mentioned. We will see that how we can use it into the reference. Moreover, we will also see the FAME scheme which central government is also running onto the counterbalance. Then, guys, moving forward, here the Millennium Park judgment has been mentioned, so we'll see that what has happened, and into this context article 142 we will be seeing. Then, guys, other news you can yourself see, they are not important for our exam. Then, moving forward, directly we will be coming to the editorial page. Now, this particular editorial talks about the Sri Lankan mandate, Sri Lankan elections. Now, guys, very selective study we need to make, and here without going into the political inclination, we will see that how 2018 constitutional crisis came and how it might be ended now in 2020. So a good attachment will be seen. Now, guys, this particular article talks about the RBI's review of the monetary policy which it conducted. However, already yesterday, into a very detailed discussion, we have already seen all the issues which have been mentioned. Now, guys, this particular article is also talking about the Sri Lankan elections. We'll see this thing. Then, guys, this article talks about as how BJP government is trying to subvert the LDF government in Kerala. Political inclinated article, not important for our exam. Then, guys, on every Saturday, a ground zero report comes into the Hindu newspaper where the accounts of the actual people are told with respect to any issue. So, here the Maoist attack has been mentioned. Guys, however, not directly important for our UPSC exam because exam specific stuff has not been given into the article. Then, guys, moving forward, here you can see the Food Vision 2050. So, friends, here we will study the Arakunomics model, which could serve as a good example. Then, now the Supreme Court is asking, can the 4G internet be restored into the Jammu and Kashmir? And the views have just been asked. So, guys, nothing substantial has come, just a one-liner concept. Then, guys, new education policy lays the foundation for a new India. Onto the NEP matter, it is just some discussion has been taken. But, guys, already we had made a specific videos and series of 5-6 articles already we had discussed. Then this particular article talks about the DCGA report with respect to the Calicut airport, and here I will tell you about the tabletop airports and certain very important issues which could be directly important for our exam. Then, guys, others you can see are just the political news, not important for our exam. Then tie-up promise with respect to the vaccine has been mentioned, so we'll see the issues which are given here. Then, guys, the prop dominance of online advertising, what are the issues and what are the implications, we'll be seeing them. Then, guys, if you remember, a few days back we discussed the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, where 5 kg extra food grain was to be given along with 1 kg of chana to the beneficiaries of the National Food Security Act. So, guys, this was a very good scheme, but now it has been found that only 40% of beneficiaries actually received the benefits. So, good scheme but poor implementation, an example of poor implementation. Then, moving showcase page, we know that not important for our exam. Then, guys, the world page today, it talks about the Sri Lankan election. We will be discussing this with the exam. Then, guys, here the US ban on TikTok etc. has been mentioned, directly not important for the paper. Then on business page, a large corporate news has been given. Now, guys, here it has been said that RBI will be setting up panel for the stressed loan resolution norms. Now, as COVID-19 started, there were large firms which were not able to pay back. So on that particular thing, the panel will be established. However, till now, nothing decision has been taken with respect to their report. So just one-liner concept. Then, guys, Moving forward onto the sports page, the sports news has been given, not directly relevant for the exam. Then here, the leopard poaching has been mentioned, and in that particular respect, the report of traffic is being talked about. So guys, the factual information I will provide it in much detail into the PDF. So guys, that's all, and now let's take the newspaper analysis in detail. Now, starting up, friends, here you can see that into the sad turn of events, two unfateful disasters occurred into Kerala. The first one was a severe landslide in which large number of people died into the tea estate. Second one is the aircraft crash. Now, guys, you don't need to see that how many people are killed and actual nitty-gritties of the issue. See what is actually a disaster. Whenever the hazard will meet the vulnerability, we will describe it as a disaster. So hazard is simply a bad event. Now this landslide was an hazard, but as people killed, it turned out into a disaster. Similarly, this airplane crash was a hazard, but because people were involved, it led to vulnerability and ultimately it is a disaster. This airplane crash is an anthropogenic disaster, whereas this landslide is a natural disaster. And dedicatedly for disasters, we have the Disaster Management Act of 2005, which establishes the National Disaster Management Authority at the national level, State Disaster Management Authority at the state level, and there is also the District Disaster Management Authority at the district level. So at three levels the authorities have been made. Now talking about the NDMA, it has a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and there are the regular members. Now just keep in mind that the chairperson of the National Disaster Management Authority is the Prime Minister, and the strength of the authority including the vice chairperson should not be more than 9 members, and these members as well as vice chairperson, they have a tenure of maximum 5 years. And guys, on to the similar lines, into the State Disaster Management Authority, the chairperson is the chief minister. Then guys, moving forward into the National Disaster Management Act, there is a section number 8 which says that the National Executive Committee is to be established. So actually this committee assists NDMA with respect to the implementation formulation of policy, and actual powerhouse is the NEC. Now guys, further under the NDMA, there is a provision that whenever a disaster will occur, then to mitigate that disaster, there will be the National Disaster Response Force. So under section 44 and 45, this force has been made. Now guys, this force have 12 battalions which have been stationed across the country, and the personnel for these 12 battalions come from the paramilitary forces such as the BSF, CRPF, ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police, and all these agencies. Now as the disaster occurred here, both the places, the NDRF was the response force which reached along with the personnel from other responsible agencies also, such as the fire department, police department, ambulance services, etc. So guys, just keep it into your mind, the mandate of the NDRF, it is prevalent to all the disasters, anthropogenic as well as man-made, and even into the COVID-19 NDRF has played a significant role. So guys, please remember these things as a part of our GS paper number 3. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now guys, here we can see a reference that the Delhi government is launching the electric vehicle policy which will be meeting certain objectives. Now guys, before going into the news article, see, there is a classic dilemma between the environment and economy. If you want to push the economic reforms, it have a cost onto the environment, and similarly if you want to conserve the environment, then the economy will be suffering. But guys, if we go into certain policy actions such as the electric vehicle manufacturing, solar panel manufacturing, renewable energy building, then these are certain segments where this particular dilemma is taken care of. And today we are talking about one such thing, that is the electric vehicle policy. So Delhi government has said that it will be bringing it, and it will serve the three purposes. First of all, it will help to kickstart the economic activities into the city which had suffered into the aftermath of the present crisis. Then guys, at the same time, it will also control the level of pollution, in which the major role is played by the increasing concentration of PM 2.5 and PM 10. And we all know that the major exhaust of PM 2.5 and 10 occurs from the vehicles. How? Guys, because into the petrol and diesel there are trace quantities of the sulfur. And when the combustion happens, this sulfur remains unburnt, which is emitted out of the exhaust, and it causes the major PM 2.5 concentration into the air. Now only this is not responsible, but this is a majorly responsible. Keep this into your mind. And into the electric vehicles, since there will be no combustion of the petrol or diesel, there will obviously be no there will also be no exhaust of the PM 2.5 and PM 10 also. So it will be solved. Then guys, as people will be given employment into the building of the electric vehicles, the problem of unemployment will also be reduced. Now, under the electric vehicle policy of Delhi, a target has been taken that by 2024, 25% of new vehicles which are being registered, they should be the e-vehicles. Moreover, at the same time, charging stations will be developed throughout the city. Now, guys, often there is an apprehension in people in buying these electric vehicles because they believe that the range or the drivability of the vehicle will be a problem and they can't travel long distances. But if these charging stations will be deployed, that apprehension will go and people will be more inclined to buy the electric vehicles. After that, guys, incentives will also be given to the buyers from the tune of 30,000 rupees to 1.5 lakh rupees, so that they go in buying of the electric vehicles. Now, all this is being done in addition to provide a large number of benefits to the manufacturers of electric vehicles also. Now, guys, this is a state reference, and apart from this, there we also have a national reference with respect to the electric vehicles. So, guys, in that particular respect, see, in 2013, government came out with the National Electronic Mobility Mission Plan 2020, where a deadline was set, and it was said that in order to reduce the vehicular emission we need to adopt more and more electric vehicles. Now guys, to fulfill this, the FAME scheme came. FAME stands for faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles. Now first the FAME 1 started, and it began in 2015. Now guys, in 2019 the second phase of the FAME has been started, and this second phase focuses on three components, and it is a mission mode project which have a duration of again 3 years. So three components are that: first of all, the subsidy or the incentives will be provided to the buyers of the electric vehicles. After that, the investment will be made into deploying the charging stations for the electric vehicles. And thirdly, it has been said that the manufacturers will also be given the benefits so that they can invest into the high quality lithium ion battery sets for the electric vehicles. So guys, here we can see that on the one hand the national central government are providing the incentives, and at the other hand the union territory of Delhi had also came with its own proposal. And when both the forces will be working together, there could be actual faster adoption of the electric vehicles. Moreover guys, it has been specifically said by the government of Delhi that the incentives will be which will be provided under the Delhi government scheme, they will be in addition to the incentives which are being provided under the FAME 2. So guys, this is actually a very positive development and can be used as a reference onto the questions with respect to the adoption of electric vehicles. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now guys, in this particular news we can see the use of article 142 by the Supreme Court. Now guys, before going into this news article, we will see certain background. See, there is a concept of the sanitary landfill sites. Now sanitary landfill sites, these are the big plots or big patches of land where the dumping of the waste is done. And guys, once these sites reach their maximum capacity, then they could be used for some other purpose. Now in Delhi, there are 12 such sanitary landfill sites. And in 1996, Supreme Court into the BL Vadera case said that these landfill sites cannot be used for any other purpose rather than just to develop the forest. So only forest can be developed into these sites. But now, as the National Capital Region Transport Corporation is building the rapid transit corridors, it need land for installing the pillars. So an appeal was made to the Supreme Court that can one of the sanitary landfill site, that is the Millennium Park, can be used for the deployment of pillars. Now guys, there is a contradiction coming that even earlier in 1996 it has been said that they can't be used, but it was asked to review such kind of decision, and Supreme Court used the powers given under article number 142 and allowed that such kind of construction can take place here. So guys, article 140 provides a power to Supreme Court that Supreme Court can issue orders or can issue decrees to fulfill the complete justice. And guys, by virtue of this particular power, Supreme Court has taken large number of decisions, and even many a times it enters into the domain of the legislature. You might have heard the term judicial activism, where it has been said that Supreme Court or the judiciary steps into the shoes of the legislature. So the power of the judicial activism are also partly coming from the article number 142. So guys, just please keep it, if a question comes, then you can say that by using article 142 such a thing happened. So that's it guys, now we'll move to next. Now guys, we are into the editorial section, and these two editorial talks about the Sri Lankan election. Now first of all, you don't need to go into the nitty gritties into the election as which party won how many seats and all that kind of issues, because not usable for exam. However, it brings to culmination a constitutional crisis which is going on since 2018. So into that particular background, we'll understand this particular issue. Guys, only broad themes you need to understand for our exam. See, a kind of a constitutional crisis began in 2018 in Sri Lanka. But before going here, we need to see a background. So, guys, into the story, there are certain characters, the heroes and villains. I'll introduce you to them. He is Mahinda Rajapaksa. He is the star number one. He was the president of Sri Lanka from 2005 to 2014. Then the Maithripal Sri Sena, will understand his role also. Then Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Ranil Wickremesinghe. So these are the four people. Now guys, what happened? As I told you, Mahinda Rajapaksa was the president from 2005 to and 2014. He was responsible for bringing a large number of reforms into the Sri Lanka. For example, the civil war which was going on in Sri Lanka with the Litte, that is Liberation Tamil Tiger Elam, it was brought to a conclusion in 2009 under his leadership. After that, he also introduced various other reforms into the economic sphere also. But guys, a kind of an opinion generated against the Mahinda Rajapaksa that he had also violated large number of civil and human rights, and even the United Nations report estimated that 40,000 Tamilians have been killed into the civil war, and it was carried under the leadership of Mahinda Rajapaksa. So he was criticized so much, and into the mean course of time, a huge scandal corruption charge also came up during his leadership. It was said that when the China was building the port there, it has the Mahinda Rajapaksa had some vested interest. Therefore, to topple the Mahinda Rajapaksa, in 2015 elections were fought where various parties formed the coalition, and successfully they defeated the Mahinda Rajapaksa. The slogan of 2015 election was only to get rid of Mahinda Rajapaksa and his corrupt policies. Now guys, into this election, the Sri Sena became the president and Ranil Wickremesinghe, he became the prime minister. Now things were going very smooth, but what happened in 2018? Suddenly the Sri Sena, he got some epiphany, and he assumed that it is good to appoint Mahinda Rajapaksa as a prime minister, and he appointed him as prime minister. And even the Ranil Wickremesinghe, neither he resigned nor his removal was completed, and there was a point in Sri Lanka in 2018 when actually there were two prime ministers. Now a confusion came that who is a legitimate prime minister. Ranil Wickremesinghe said that president doesn't have the power that he can remove the prime minister. prime minister can only be removed under four circumstances, that is by resignation, by death, by removal from the council of minister, or otherwise. But pride president doesn't have the power to do this particular thing. President said that when president has the power to appoint the prime minister, he also have the power to remove the prime minister, and a kind of a constitutional crisis. And even when Mahinda Rajapaksa was subserving as a supposed prime minister, two no confidence motion was also passed against the Mahinda Rajapaksa. But Shri Sena said that no, he is the legitimate prime minister. And then ultimately in December 2018, the Supreme Court intervened and said that Ranil Wickramasinghe is the actual prime minister. So, guys, this happened ultimately. They both stayed at president and prime minister. Now, guys, cutting short to 2019. In 2019, again, the presidential elections occurred, and into these presidential elections, the new president was appointed. That was the Gotabaya Rajapaksa. And Gotabaya Rajapaksa, after coming to the president, said that now I will appoint the new prime minister, and the new prime minister will be my brother Mahinda Rajapaksa, and they both became the president and the prime minister. Now 2020, the elections were convened, and into these elections, the SLPP, who is the SLPP party, which is the party of the Mahinda Rajapaksa, assumed a landslide victory, and now they both will be continuing as the president as well as the prime minister. Now, guys, the victory of SLPP is because of two reasons. Reason number one is a kind of dissatisfaction against the Sri Sena and Ranil Wickramasinghe, as they were not able to bring the reforms for which they promised in 2015. And the reason number two is that actually the Mahinda Rajapaksa and Gotabaya, they were able to contain the COVID-19 very effectively. They were able to enforce the lockdown, and even some kind of economic recovery signs are also being seen now finally into the Sri Lanka. Moreover, when Easter bombings occurred in Sri Lanka, then a prior intelligence report was given to the Maithripal Sri Sena, but again the government was not able to take any stand, so there was the dissatisfaction on this reason also. Now, guys, now it was said that when the government will be coming into the power, they will undo the 19th Constitutional Amendment Act. So 19th Constitutional Amendment Act was introduced by the government of Shri Sena and Wickramasinghe, and by this Amendment Act, the powers of the president were reduced, his tenure was limited, as well as the number of times he can serve, that particular thing was also limited. Now the Mahinda Rajapaksa says that we will remove all such kind of restrictions, and the undoing of 19th Constitutional Amendment Act is to be carried. But it is being suggested that Mahinda Rajapaksa should not go into these type of things, rather should work for the economic recovery and containing of the pandemic. So friends, this is the entire thing which is going on, and once for all, you don't need to go anything about apart from this particular article, otherwise it will be the unnecessary politicization or the interference into the political matters of Sri Lanka. So guys, that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, here we can see a reference which could be used in examples of the sustainable agriculture into the GS paper number 3. So, guys, the Food Vision 2050 prize has been given to the Nandi Foundation. Now, this Food Vision Prize is given by the Rockefeller Foundation, which is based in USA and is one of the largest philanthropic organization and provides the grant as well aids into the various disciplines. Now, the Rockefeller Foundation had identified the Nandi Foundation because of its Arakunomics model. Now, this particular model works onto the ABCDEFGH framework. Now, guys, before going into the details of this framework, the Arakunomics model has been applied into the Araku Valley, that is in Andhra Pradesh, then into the Wardha, that is in Maharashtra, as well as in New Delhi. And guys, by Arakunomics, the tribals living in Araku, they had benefited so much that the coffee which is being grown into the Araku, it is world renowned, and there is global demand, due to which the lifestyle of the tribals have also been improved. Now, guys, this Arakunomics model, as I told you, is working on to this particular framework. So it stands for the agriculture, biology, compost, decentralized decision making, entrepreneurs, families, global markets, and headstands. Now, guys, all these components are combined together so that sustainable agriculture can be made. So, friends, Arakunomics model is just how to fuse all these elements together for the agricultural welfare, ecological welfare, as well as for the welfare of the tribal communities or indigenous communities which are involved. Now, guys, personally, you don't need to go too much into this detail, but rather just as a reference, you can use the Arakunomics model which won the Food Vision Prize. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, friends, in this particular news, we will see certain important concepts. So, as we had seen already that yesterday a massive crash occurred at into the Kerala at Calicut Airport. Now, guys, this particular category of airport which is in question, it is a tabletop runway airport. Now, tabletop runway airports are always tricky. And even for the Kozhikode airport in 2011, a report came which flagged the unsafe conditions which are there, but till now no effort has been taken to rectify those conditions or to issue an advisory due to which the landing of aircrafts on such airport might be prohibited. Now, guys, in 2010 there was a massive air crash at the Mangaluru airport, and after the Mangaluru airport the audit of unsafe airports were done, and there the Calicut airport was raised as a matter of concern, but till now the landings were happening, and already it was a disaster which is waiting to happen. Now, guys, first of all, what are these tabletop runways? So, tabletop runways or tabletop airports are those which are made by cutting off or chopping off the peak of a particular hill, and therefore it has a very less margin for the error. Your landing needs to be very much precise. Now, guys, with respect to the Kozhikode airport, into the 2011 aviation safety report which I have talked about, there it was said that certain checks and balances are needed to be installed. It was said that towards the end of the runway there needs to be a buffer zone of at least 200 meter, but actually there was only 90 meter of a buffer zone. Moreover, guys, it was said that the width of the strip also needs to be widened, and on their both sides also there needs to be a safety area. Guys, according to the Civil Aviation Safety Advisory Committee, it was said that minimum of 150 meters of extra safety area should be there, but it was only 75 meter. So, guys, on all the counts the strip or the runway was not adequate enough to accommodate the landings, but still it was continuing for so long from 2011 to 2020, and the accident occurred. So, guys, it shows the negligence onto the part of the agencies as these kind of accidents are taking place. Moreover, apart from that also there are certain lapses that is the bad weather which further aggravated the situation. So, guys, please remember these things. If a question in disaster management comes, these things might be useful. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, here we can see that some issues with respect to the trade practices has been listed. Now, before going into the news, certain issues. Guys, what happened? The news agencies, their primary source of revenue is the advertising which they are receiving into the newspapers or the magazines. Now, guys, with the coming of internet, now users are switching from the traditional news magazines or newspapers, and now they are resorting to the internet, and therefore the advertisers have also moved to the internet, and there are no viable advertisements for the traditional news media. And, guys, even onto the internet there are few sites which generate the bulk of traffic, and therefore such advertising revenue is going to 2 3 major players who are having the major dominance onto the internet, and all the advertising revenues also going to them. And it is being said that it is not good in order to instill the healthy competition in India. So therefore, guys, the Competition Commission of India has been recommended that it should look into this matter and should see that the internet news revenue should not become the monopoly of some few selected players. Now, guys, if we talk about the Competition Commission of India, then it was established to ensure that the Competition Act 2002 is getting fulfilled. Now, Competition Act says that in an economy there should be a healthy competition, and all the anti-competition practices, or where a company is trying to become a monopoly, all such practices are needed to be struck down, and that responsibility has been given to the Competition Commission of India. Now it has a chairman, and from 2 to 10 members could be the members of this particular thing. So guys, just a kind of a recommendation has been given to CCI in order to this particular matter. Now this is nothing peculiar to India, rather throughout the world such kind of concerns are coming, and even countries such as Australia, France are also working into this particular direction. So guys, just that's it, the issue, please keep it in your mind. Now we'll move to next. Now guys, here there's a brief development with respect to the vaccine development for COVID-19. Now guys, up till now we had seen that there are so many contenders for the vaccine which are into the different stages of the trials, but so far the Oxford trials are one which are into the most advanced stages, and into the Oxford trial, if success will be achieved, then the manufacturing of the vaccine will be given to the AstraZeneca. Now, guys, AstraZeneca is a Swedish come British pharmaceutical manufacturing company. So earlier there was Astra, which was Swedish, Zeneca, which was British, and now they have been merged. So they called as AstraZeneca. Their headquarters are in England. Now, guys, for India, the manufacturing will be done by the Serum Institute. Now it has been said that Serum will be centering the production for the low income group countries, middle income group countries, as well as for India. And if the vaccine will be discovered, then in order to make it affordable, Serum needs the funding. So therefore guys, it has entered into the partnership with the Gavi and the Melinda Gates Foundation. Now guys, the Gavi is also called as the Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization, and it is one of the biggest public-private global health partnership whose aim is to provide the immunization as well as access to medicine to the poor and vulnerable countries. So what will happen? Gates and Melinda Foundation will provide a funding to Gavi, and Gavi will provide the funding to the Serum Institution, so that the accessible medicines can be provided to the people. So guys, these are the things which just we need to see into this particular article. So guys, that's it about the relevant articles in today's Hindu newspaper. I hope you liked the discussion. Thank you so much.